What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Severe MMA Podcast Premium, and it's a breaking news edition of the podcast. As seemingly the whole world of MMA has gone insane in like the last 2 hours. Islands galore, title fights, all weight classes, women, men, big lads, small lads, the whole lot. Joined today by Andy Stevenson to talk about it. If you're actually, I think we'll put this up on YouTube for everyone. The audio will be up on Patreon as well. So if you want to sign up and support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. We put up new stuff all the time over there. Andy, how are you today?
Good afternoon, good evening, Sean.
It's a fine day for it, isn't it? I'm looking out here.
What time is it down in Limerick?
It's 7:06 here in Limerick. So I'm looking out at our beautiful Ireland island outside here. You know, they could have come here and they could have just had Fight Island in Ireland. Like, would have been all the one.
Yeah.
Why didn't they do that?
Look, could have gone to Achill. They probably would have given it to them for free.
Yeah. Got a Valencia down in Kerry, a lovely island, sure.
My granddad was born on Valencia Island.
Is it? Jesus, did he row in?
He was the first ever trip born there.
Really?
Valencia Island. Here's a fun fact.
That amazing. I'm sure half a Kerry man's. There's a bit of you real man, so not all fucking Dublin.
Yeah.
But what about Yaz Island? So we now that we talked about that, like, I think a lot of people thought it might have been an actual island. If you know what I mean. Like, if people look up like Yaz Island, it's like in along Cork. Actually, it's like 8 islands, but there's no actual islands in Cork. It's just you can just drive around. Apparently, Yaz Island is just like Yaz Peninsula, it should be called. It's just like a part of Abu Dhabi, and there's like it's cut off a bit. Have you been there? Actually, you travel all over the place.
I've been to Dubai and I've been to Abu Dhabi, but I haven't been to Yaz Island. So I was duped by it as well. I thought, like when they announced it, I was like, oh, Yaz Island, great, Fight Island actually exists. Mm-hmm. And then I got onto my mate who lives out there, and he was like, no, it's like a race, like a driving racing course and an IKEA, and that's about it there. Like, it's not really an island. I think everyone has this picture of like this glorious, like Bahamas style tropical paradise, fighting on the beach, coconuts around everywhere, and I think we're a bit mistaken. It's just going to be a bit sweaty.
Yeah, Dana White said today that they're still going to have an octagon on the beach, which, like, they released a graphic and it was an octagon on the beach, and then they released like a picture and it was like an arena with an octagon in it that might be near the beach.
It's going to be a tent, isn't it? It's going to be a tent.
Like, they did it before, where they'd put in the seating. Like, they've done huge ones out there before, but I think they've done relatively smaller ones as well. The one years ago, was it was it Anderson Silva, or was that somewhere else? I don't know. But yeah, like, I don't think there's going to be a crowd there anyway, so they'll probably just do like a bit of an indoor thing. But like, it's an interesting one because, okay, it's right, we're still in the middle of COVID-19. That's going to be a discussion. Obviously, we're going to have to keep having, like, hopefully they'll be instituting their protocol out there. It seems like in Florida they didn't really care about it as much when people weren't pushing for it. Now they went back to Nevada, and it seems Nevada said the commissioner were pushing for it, so they kind of made them do it there with masks and everything like that. So it's interesting to see what they're going to be doing out there. But I suppose that aside, we've talked about that a lot. The fight itself out there, I think everyone, you know, an MMA fan and just people who like fun kind of like the idea of the Fight Island. You know, we're going to have all these fights. It's 4 fights, I think, in the space of 3 weeks, 2 weeks or something like that. And just loads of fights into one place over and over. That idea itself, whatever about all the rest, you know, okay, we might want it on the beach with tiki torches and like moonlight and stuff. It's still going to be good crack, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, the idea is great. Like, it'd be better if they could have fans there, because then other people can actually enjoy it and go cover it or something. But yeah, like, it's a great concept. I think it's great, but I mean, they said it's just for their international fighters, but then it's like Usman versus Gilbert Burns, who are both 2 US based fighters.
Yeah.
Headlining immediately. So
I suppose,
do they need to have that many of them out there? Could they not just do most of them in the UFC Apex?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a bit of crack, I suppose. But I don't know. It seems like a lot of effort to like utilize US fighters out there.
Mm-hmm. It seems to be like the Gustafsson versus Verdum fight is going to be out there as well. Obviously, Verdum is based in, I know he's from Brazil, but he's based in the US now after fighting in the US. What was it, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, or something like that? So it's it's interesting. Like, I think they were always kind of going to mix it like that. Like, there's lots of US fighters. I don't know the exact numbers now. Probably Zane Simon or someone like that will be able to tell you better than me. But I'm sure there's
like 50 or 60% of the roster is from the US.
Yeah, so like most of the fighters, you know, you can keep. You know, they've kept it going with all US fighters, and they've obviously repeating a little bit now, but like those US fighters are going to be coming back. Like Gilbert Burns is ready to fight again, quickly, and Usman was ready to fight. So like this is the time to fight. If they can get him there, they can get him there. So it's grand.
To be fair, they're bringing it with that UFC 251 card that they announced, like 3 title fights on it. That should be a bit of crack.
Yeah, so the 3 title fights, as we mentioned, Usman versus Gilbert Burns. We have Petr Yan versus Jose Aldo, and we have the rematch Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski too. We'll go back and we'll talk about the welterweight one for a second because we started with that. What do you think? I know you're a big fan of Leon Edwards, and a lot of people around this side of the world really thought Leon Edwards should get it. Ariel actually reported that they tried to get Leon Edwards, they got in contact with him, but the UK band, they couldn't really get him. So what are your thoughts on it? Masvidal as well, obviously. You know, that's, I suppose, a discussion for another day. It could take fucking a year to discuss that. But what do you think of Burns getting that fight?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they went with the path of least resistance there as far as making that fight goes. But the Leon Edwards, I'd be interested to hear if there's any more information on kind of why he couldn't get out of the UK, because I'm pretty sure people can travel in and out. I don't think they have a strict laws to Ireland, for example. And if it's in Abu Dhabi, then I don't know, maybe you would think that it'd be similar to the other fighters that are going over there, but I don't know, maybe there's more to it than meets the eye, I guess.
I don't know what it is. I'm no expert.
But I mean, look, it's a great fight. Like the Burns Usman fight. I mean, Burns on a serious tear. Like, I know a lot of people see him as maybe a little bit further down the rankings, but he did just beat the former champion in Woodley, so he's worthy of a title shot. Maybe if all circumstances were normal, he probably wouldn't have got it, or if maybe a certain deal could have been done financially, he wouldn't have got it. But look, this is how it's played out. So I mean, this is where we are.
Yeah, I think the Masvidal fight was the one everyone thought should have been made the most sense, but as you said, financially it couldn't have been done. Nate Diaz came out and tweeted, like, you know, this, you shouldn't have taken that fight. You're just taking a fight, proving that you're willing to take a fight for less money, which is like a very pro fighter. It's a good stance though from Nate Diaz. That's the stance fighters probably should be taking, but there's always going to be one who step over the picket line as such. Like
it's been great to see the last while, in my opinion anyway. Like seeing John, I know, but say what you want about John Jones. I know he's had his stuff going on in the past, and like I'm no fan of him, but he's doing the right thing right now, and he's speaking out. And it's the big stars like him, like Masvidal, like Diaz, like all those big stars need to be speaking out. Sean O'Malley's young up and coming. He's got everything. Like he's got the it. He could be one of their next big stars if he continues winning. And if he's coming out saying, okay, I want to renegotiate my contract. Last fight, I was supposed to get a bump. He only got, I think, $5,000 increase in his pay, and now he's looking to fight. I mean, he's going to be pushed up those rankings. So there's a movement going on right now. Will they actually come together and get some collective bargaining?
No.
I mean, but this is what they need is all the other fighters jumping on now. And I saw like the survey done recently by The Athletic. That was a great piece of work. But it just showed that like all the fighters are on the same page. They don't think they're paid well enough, but they've done nothing about it.
Yeah, that like a lot of I thought that Athletic survey was great as well, but I think a big part of that Athletic survey like showed that a lot of the problems are obvious to the fighters and they're doing nothing about it. You know, not just with the fighter union, but everything around it. And a lot of things maybe that aren't problems, they might think are problems. it's you know, it's a weird one. Look, MMA is a mess.
I think a large part of it comes down to management though, because if you look at, like, let's call a spade a spade. Look at the title fight at UFC 251, Usman versus Burns, both managed by Ali Abdelaziz. He's got a significant batch of fighters in the UFC right now, and so if what the biggest asset that the fighters could have against UFC is collectiveness or unity, or you know what I mean, like they need strength in numbers here. And if you've got a big manager who's in cahoots, who's defending the UFC in lawsuits, I don't see how that isn't a conflict of interest. I don't see how this isn't a financially incentive, and a financial incentive for him to make this fight. And
if you spin it around the other way, then I saw Josh Gross and a few more people talking about it yesterday. If the managers were to all come together and bring all their fighters together, that would be the best way you could get this association going.
Exactly. But they need. But when you've got one stable that are in cahoots essentially with the UFC,
working with him,
he's just said and done. He's not. They're getting good deals, and like to be fair, he does. By all accounts, Ali Abdelaziz is great for his fighters. Is it in the bigger picture ethical? I don't know.
Is it good for the sport? Probably not. It's, you know, it might be short term, but in MMA we have a lot of short termism. But however, what about
this fight though?
It is a great fight. Well, yeah, it's a good fight. I don't give Gilbert Burns much of a chance, to be honest. Maybe he will, I suppose, but we'll break that down in greater detail as we go. What do you think of the Petr Yan Jose Aldo fight? I know you're a big fan of Yan, like myself and a lot of people around this way. Do you think it's going to be a cakewalk for Yan, or do you think Aldo has a real chance?
No, I think I think Jan will beat him in a decision,
Mhm.
but I think it's going to be a great fight. I think it's going to be a really, really fun fight, very high paced. I think we'll see it play out in the feet for a bit and probably be some fun scrambles. And I mean, can't really fault it as a fight. I always love watching Jose Aldo fight. And yeah, Jan always brings it. So now is it the fight to make? No.
Yeah. It's
But
is it or
Aldo coming
no?
off, I was like, I know there's this myth now that Jose Aldo has a win in his record against Marlon Moraes. Like, I don't know. I didn't go back and watch it. I never actually scored the fight, but I know like there's good reason for both sides. But like the fact that people
No,
are saying it's a complete
there isn't. No.
robbery is ridiculous.
Yeah. People have
So,
never fucking read the criteria. They haven't a clue what they're talking about.
but sure, you can get a title shot off losses these days. So
you can.
it's grand.
Like Daniel Cormier said in the on the broadcast at the weekend, technically Jose Aldo lost his last fight. Well, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Technically, you lost your last fight as well, Stipe Miocic fucking
Yeah.
knocked you out. Like, you know, it's and you're getting a title shot.
You could talk a lot about Henry Cejudo's title reign then if you're going to go with technically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he never became a double champion.
Yeah,
That's mighty
technically, actually, he might have won.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but however, and the other title fight then on that was Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. I remember seeing at the time after that, I think it was Luke Thomas who made kind of the argument that they should wait and give Holloway a little bit more time to build himself back up after, you know, a couple of hard fights and a hard year, and you know he had that. Seemed like a concussion, but I don't think it was ever confirmed or anything like that. But
The weight cut with the previous one,
yeah,
wasn't
and the
it?
weight cut and things as well like that. I don't know, and there's been a bit of time now, so maybe it's the right time. But I feel
only
like,
only 7 months.
yeah. Yeah, it's not too bad. I feel like they could have given it to someone else. Given Max another fight, he probably would have won it and made it again. Like, it feels like the UFC is doing too much of this, too much immediate rematches over the last while. You know, whether it's you know, we've seen them all down through the years doing it with, from Frankie Edgar to Vincent Henderson to all these ones after BJ Penn. And this, it feels like if they let it percolate for a little bit, like I think the perfect example maybe, and it's a different sort of example, but the John Jones Daniel Cormier fight, it's happened now like twice, say three, and like so they fought. Then there was a couple of fights, and then there was a few years later, and it built up again. Like then it built up again. Okay, they didn't get the third fight, but it's, you know, it builds and builds and builds. I think that can happen with fights, and I think it's better off to do it, especially with two brilliant guys like Volkanovski and Max Holloway in there. What are your thoughts on it? Do you think Max is the right one to get it now, or do you think they should have let it wait for a while?
I think, I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm kind of indifferent to it one way or the other. Like, I think it's a fine one to make. Max was obviously a great champion, and the fight, it wasn't like Volkan obviously like beat the shit out of him or anything. Like he kind of outclassed him. Like he won clearly, but I don't know. Max just seemed like he wasn't in. He hadn't kicked it up a gear that he usually does or something. I don't know what. He looked off, I think, in that fight. And I'm not saying that he'd win the rematch, but I think it's close enough fight that you can make it. And people love Max Holloway, and he went up to 155 for them and stuff. So I mean, look, this is where the era that we're in, like you don't have to fight the next best guy really, and he's more deserving than a lot of other people.
Yeah, and he probably is the next best guy. So
yeah, like who'd you have, Korean Zombie or who? Or
yeah, there's a lot like Magomed Sharapov, Yair Rodriguez. You could put anyone in there.
Yeah.
I love that division.
There's a few fights there that could go against each other to establish a clear number one contender. Though I think you can let that simmer a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, you can, but I think letting Max Holloway simmer a bit makes a bigger fight. Like, there's some good fighters there, but like all of the guys I named there, you named there, are not going to be a bigger fight than a Max Holloway fight if it's kind of built back up. Like, this fight's going to be big anyway, but I feel like they could have got a little bit more out of it. But that's really nitpicking.
Do you think Holloway would have been better off going back up to 155 and just kind of maybe trying it out there for a bit, or because like I mean, like he lost to Dustin Poirier obviously, but I mean Dustin Poirier is elite, so there's no real shame in that.
Yeah, I think Max Holloway is a bad matchup for Habib as well. So if he did go up there, I think he'd have a chance. But the thing about it, Poirier was a bad matchup for Max Holloway. So, and I know Poirier fought Habib and got beaten as well, but his MMA matches, you know. But I agree with you. I've always thought Max Holloway at 155 would have been, would have been better. We've seen the likes of McGregor go up. We've seen Poirier go up and look a lot better at 155. I think it's like he's just kind of a slender guy anyway, and it's not like Poirier when he went up, you could see the muscle kind of go on him. You can see McGregor as well especially when he goes to 170 as well. I think they take the muscle better. But as you mentioned there, he went up to fight Poirier, and it was on short notice. If he got 6 months to go up, was able to put on that weight a little bit better, put on a little bit extra muscle to get up there, probably would suit him better. I'd love to see that. You know, the question you asked is, would you like to see him? I definitely would like to see him going to 155, and maybe if he loses here, Volkanovski beat him pretty handily in the first time. division. Now, I remember just right after that, myself and Graham discussing on the podcast and saying there was ways for Max Holloway to kind of to close the gap, and I'm sure we'll talk about them more and break it down more on the podcast when I go and rewatch that. So it's not a given that this is going to be Volkanovski beating Max Holloway again.
No.
It rarely happens, you know. It rarely happens that fighters, we saw with Stipe Miocic, who we'll talk about again in a second, he did it, but it rarely happens that you get beaten comprehensively and then come back and win your title back against the same person. So a very interesting fight, and I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Before we get to the Stipe Cormier fight, Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade 2 as well. That fight makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, in that division where Zhang Weili is kind of looking for the next shot again, and she'll probably need a bit of time out.
Yeah, especially after the first one ended up so kind of not controversially, but like just weirdly.
Oddly, yeah.
Like just like latched onto that submission, just wouldn't let go for some bizarre reason. Got slam KO'd. So I mean, Rose Namajunas was also kind of beating the shit out of Jessica Andrade for the first round of that fight, and then just got unlucky or just kind of made a mistake more than anything. So I think that's a fun one. It's kind of weird that it's not even for a title. You kind of forget that the division has moved on so quickly. It seems like very shortly ago that Rose Namajunas was champion.
Yeah, that division has just had so many good champions and so many good fights. It was weird. I was thinking about women's bantamweight division, and there really hasn't been a classic fight ever in that division. You know, we've had some good. Ronda Rousey went in and just destroyed everyone. Then we had, I think probably the best fight in that division was Holly Holm versus Miesha Tate, where it was an unbelievable comeback. Then,
I was just about to say that.
Then Namajunas, Nunes got the title from Miesha Tate and has just beat the shit out of everyone since. So apart from Shevchenko, you know, those weren't the classic fights. They were close fights, but it's been a lot of drubbings in that division. I don't know how I got onto that, but 115 has been
even the one you mentioned, the home Tate one, that was a drubbing up until she just pulled out the sub at the end.
It was actually, yeah. So the Shevchenko ones were probably the most even fights, but it's been a fun division. I like going up to 145. Nunes is probably one of my favorite fights of all time against Cyborg. Just a classic fucking fight. What a fight that was. But,
I was saying, like, I reached it for the first time, I think, and it felt like you're watching it live again. Like, it's just so chaotic.
I watched it. I was actually looking. I don't know why I searched my tweets for some reason for like Nunes or Cyborg, and I have tweeted about that fight about 10 times. I love that fight so much. It was absolutely fantastic. The other fight announced, Ariel put it up here. Dana White actually announced it on First Take. He says, Paige Van Zandt versus Amanda Hebas. You know, I'm a big fan. I don't know, is it Rebas or Hebas? She's Brazilian.
I think it's probably Hebas, right? Because it's Brazilian. Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of hers. I think her last couple of fights have been very, very good. She obviously beat Mackenzie Dern, who's a top prospect coming through. She
hyped her.
Yeah, she seemed fun outside of the octagon as well, coming in here against Paige Van Zandt in the last fight of her contract. It just seems, doesn't it, like...
Feed her to the lions, Dana. Feed her to the lions.
Feed her to the lions. Poor old Paige is getting...
What's that, Paige? You want more money? There you go.
Good luck, Scott.
You win this one and we'll give you a new contract.
Ring Scott Coker there, ask him what he's up to.
Yeah. You might want to post a few more photos on Instagram for a bit more money there.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Good luck. And Dan actually said almost exactly that. So, but look, a good card. I like that fight as well. I like
Paige. I mean, Paige Van Zandt, she puts on some fun fights. Like, she's had that spectacular knockout. She had who's over Felicia what's her name? Herring.
Felicia Herring. Yeah. What about that fight with the Karate Hottie? That was some fight. That was a back and forth.
Yeah, so it's like it should be a good crack. Decision, I would imagine.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. No, I think Hebas will finish her. But anyway, we'll see. And the last thing here, and we'll talk about the rest on the SevereMMA podcast this weekend. Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier 3, as I called it, a poor man's John Jones versus Francis Ngannou, the real heavyweight title fight. Like, I like this fight.
The off-brand version, is it?
the off-brand, the fucking home savers version.
Tesco value.
No, fucking LD value. What are you talking about? But I'm only messing. It's a very good fight. You had to kind of make this fight. Heavyweight trilogies seem to be the best sort of trilogies. You know, with JDS versus Kane and all the rest of them that we've had back through the years. Who'd you fancy? Go on, so tell us officially. Andy Stevenson, your pick right now. You can change it. You can change it when we come up to the time again.
Officially, I think Daniel Cormier knocks him out. Second round.
Daniel Cormier. I think Cormier looked old and heavy and bad in that last fight. Apart from
he does have his foot out the door as well.
Yeah, if Stipe can survive is the wrong word, but if he can keep going into the third, fourth round, I think Cormier at heavyweight, I don't know if that weight suits him. Maybe Cormier will come in a bit lighter and it might suit him a bit better. But like Cormier went up in the first fight and he took the power up with him and he knocked him out. But in the second fight, it kind of played against him, that extra weight and stuff. So it's an interesting fight. There's a lot of integers that will decide this fight. It's a very, very interesting one. But Steve, like the way Stipe
I wonder
attacked
how
the body.
fit Cormier will come in as well, because like every time Ariel does that show with him, he's always seems to be saying, like they're asking him, how much do you weigh right now? How much do you weigh?
Mm-hmm.
Like for a while, he said he was heavy. Like I know he's not in camp or anything, but I mean, I don't know. That man likes to eat, so we'll see how heavy he comes in.
Yeah, not a feeling.
It's the ultimate, like, but I mean, you're not the UFC former heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the ultimate like kind of company guy versus the anti-company.
I don't know if Steve has such anti-company.
But they've had like a tenuous relationship.
Yeah, that's true.
So like Cormier's shilling for them at every opportunity. I actually really like Cormier. I don't mind his commentary. I heard just talking about Rogan is terrible, which it was a bit much, but I like him. But hasn't been very outspoken towards the pay issue either for fighters. And Stipe has been very much at odds with the UFC, so I don't know. They're a very different dynamic here coming in.
Yeah, they have indeed. So yeah, that's it. Looking forward. I've if you're a Patreon subscriber here listening, I have a Q&A coming out tomorrow, which I recorded yesterday, which will probably be useless now, but it's going out anyway, so it'll be grand. On that as well, the last thing before we go, I talked about, someone asked who's next for Nunes, and I said Irene Aldana. And it's been announced since then. I think it was announced yesterday that Aldana's fighting Holly Holm in what's a very odd fight. Well, I think it was on MMA Fighting Day. I don't know if it's official yet, but MMA Fighting had it up earlier. So, to me, that's very odd matchmaking. Like, you're just getting rid of a contender against someone who Amanda Nunes has beaten. Did she beat Holm twice? She beaten her once anyway. So I don't know about that matchmaking at all. I'm not the biggest fan of that, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless Amanda Nunes is going to take some time off. So
yeah, maybe
when the kid and stuff.
Yeah, the baby's coming. Yeah, so maybe she
might take a year off or something like that. But I mean, that's two divisions though. Then held up.
Indeed,
they have no champions that aren't fighting with them.
Yeah, sure. Look, these things happen in MMA, right? Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening. Punch the like button, punch the subscribe button, follow Andy Stevenson, Andy SD123.
And congratulations to Conor McGregor on his retirement also.
Yeah, congratulations to Conor McGregor. Congratulations to Henry Cejudo on his retirement. John Jones, Alexander Gustafsson. Oh wait, no, he's back. So yeah, fair play to y'all. God bless. Andy SD123 over that way.
See you later.
SevereMMA. Boom, we're out.